it's really an attempt to control the narrative, because once you are charged with a crime, you're losing control of your own story. And Donald Trump hates that. What he wants is, I mean, he is a fantastic storyteller, and he wants this to be his show, his story. And so he's been trying to control the sequence of events from the start.
No president in the history of our country has been subjected to such vicious and disgusting attacks. But they only attack me because I fight for you. It's very simple. They can't buy me and they can't control me, and that scares them beyond belief.
He's not going to hear the charges until this afternoon in New York. I think that could be your evening. I think everybody's expecting the arraignment to take place at 2:15. So that's the time to look out for. That's after 7 p.m. in Britain. But he's going to the courtroom before that. He's, the streets of Manhattan have been cleared, all in prepare. It's like a visiting dignitary, of course, which he is as a former president, but multiplied 50 times, because who else gets to clear the streets of Manhattan like that so that his limo can roll into court, where he is going to, have to effectively surrender himself to the forces of justice. Now, you had that great song, I Fought the Law and the Law Won. The law hasn't won yet, but it's got closer to Donald Trump than it ever has after 5 decades,
Indeed.
50 years of evading charges.
It's managed to get him into court, so I suppose that's a win in itself. Now, he's been warning of this arrest, I'm waving my fingers in inverted commas, for, well, almost 10 days now, hasn't he? Is the purpose of that, as presented in America at the moment, in order to kind of rally people so that the clearing of the streets and et cetera becomes essential in terms of for security reasons? I mean, we all remember the storming of the Capitol building and so on.
Yes, we do. But it's not just that. It's really an attempt to control the narrative, because once you are charged with a crime, you're losing control of your own story. And Donald Trump hates that. What he wants is, I mean, he is a fantastic storyteller, and he wants this to be his show, his story. And so he's been trying to control the sequence of events from the start. He says the judge has got it in for him because the judge has already looked into Trump Organization's finances, and in the Alan Weisselberg case, and that's one of Trump's lieutenants who actually went to jail. So, but on the other hand, only Trump, not even his lawyers, are daring to say that the judge is actually biased against him. Then there's the case of the fact that a trial could take place in New York. And New York is Donald Trump's hometown. He loves New York. It's where he made his fortune. It's all about Trump Tower and the building of his empire in New York, the property empire. But New Yorkers don't feel quite the same way about.
I was going to say, isn't it? It's a kind of completely reverse emotional relationship, isn't it? Because he's probably least popular amongst New Yorkers than almost anywhere else in the US.
Well, there is that, Mariella, you're absolutely right. And it's one of the things that fuels his enormous sense of grievance, and why I think he relates so well to, people in rural areas in New York, in America, who feel disrespected by New Yorkers and feel like they're not part of this elite and are somehow looked down on. It's impossible to overstate just how important that is to Donald Trump's appeal. So by saying that, he's also being tried in the wrong town, or is likely to be, is another thing that fuels his own sense of grievance, but appeals to a lot of his supporters. They can relate to that. He really is an unstoppable force. I mean, he's 76. He's going to be 77 quite soon. And yet, fueled by his enormous sense of grievance and desire for retribution, he's still there. The question is, though, that whether the electorate is still all the way there with him. I mean, that was cast in doubt in the midterm elections when his candidates didn't fare well. And there is polling evidence to suggest that independents are not impressed with his antics. But the Republicans, yeah, they still love him. Everybody feels they have to rally around him more. Let's put it that way. I know. And it's very, very awkward for potential challengers to Donald Trump. And of course, we're all thinking particularly of Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who was yesterday's coming man, but seems to be fading into the rearview mirror again, because Donald Trump is once again seizing all the oxygen in the room and pushing out any other potential candidate. That's the way he likes it, of course. But it also, let's think about this. Joe Biden won the last election from his basement. You know, COVID-19 was a great excuse for a fairly geriatric nominee not to get out and about on the campaign trail. And to some extent, we're seeing the same thing playing out again. Joe Biden, quiet in his basement at the White House nowadays, while Donald Trump is, you know, creating a lot of sound and fury. And so would that play out to Biden's advantage? He's going to be very old, Joe Biden, at the next election. He might like the opportunity to have the cameras off him and on somebody else.